Why Americans feel broke even with good salaries. 10 years ago, making six figures in America meant something. It meant stability. A decent house. A reliable car. Vacations once or twice a year. Savings in the bank. And maybe a little peace of mind. But today, something feels different. Millions of Americans are earning more money than previous generations ever did, yet somehow, they still feel broke. Not poor on paper, but emotionally exhausted. Financially trapped. They work longer hours. They chase promotions. They make good money. And still, they check their bank account before buying groceries. They hesitate before opening bills. They feel anxiety every time rent is due. And the strangest part is, many of them don't fully understand why this is happening. Because the problem isn't just inflation. It isn't just housing prices. And it isn't simply bad spending habits. The truth is much deeper than that. Over the past 20 years, modern life quietly transformed money itself. Not physically. Psychologically. And once money became digital, invisible, and emotional, everything changed. Part 1. The new version of being broke. Being broke today doesn't always look obvious anymore. Years ago, financial struggle was easier to recognize. You either had money or you didn't. But modern financial stress looks different. Today, someone can earn $100,000 a year and still feel trapped. Because being broke is no longer just about income. It's about pressure. Constant pressure. Rent. Insurance. Subscriptions. Debt. Phone bills. Streaming services. Food delivery. Car payments. Student loans. Medical expenses. And every year, more invisible costs quietly attach themselves to everyday life. Most people don't notice it happening. Because individually, each expense feels small. $10 here. $20 there. A monthly payment. A yearly subscription. A financing plan. But eventually, people wake up one day realizing they're working primarily to maintain systems they barely control. And this creates a strange modern contradiction. Americans have access to more convenience than ever before, yet many feel less financially secure than their parents did. Not because they're lazy. Not because they're stupid. But because the economic environment around them fundamentally changed. And human psychology never fully adapted to it. Part 2. The death of painful spending. For most of human history, spending money felt real. You physically handed something over. Cash left your hands. Your brain registered loss. And that emotional discomfort naturally slowed spending down. But today? Money barely feels real anymore. You tap a card. You swipe a phone. You click a button. And the purchase is complete in seconds. No friction. No pause. No emotional resistance. This changed human behavior more than most people realize. Because the less emotionally painful spending becomes, the more naturally people spend. And companies understand this perfectly. Modern businesses are no longer competing only for your money. They're competing for your attention, your habits, and eventually, your identity. That's why modern apps feel addictive. Bright colors. Notifications. Limited time offers. Personalized recommendations. Everything is designed to keep you emotionally engaged long enough to make another purchase. And over time, consumption stops feeling like a decision. It becomes a reflex. A habit. A coping mechanism. Sometimes even a form of emotional relief. Which explains why people often buy things they don't truly need, especially when they feel stressed, lonely, anxious, or insecure. Modern consumer culture discovered something powerful: emotional discomfort can be monetized. And once companies learned how to monetize human emotion, spending exploded. Part 3. Why more money doesn't feel like freedom. Most people believe higher income automatically creates freedom. But reality is more complicated. Because income rarely rises alone. Lifestyle rises with it. A slightly better apartment. A newer car. More expensive restaurants. Better clothes. Nicer vacations. And slowly, comfort becomes expectation. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it traps millions of people without them realizing it. The dangerous part is, lifestyle inflation doesn't feel irresponsible. It feels deserved. People tell themselves, I work hard. I earned this. I deserve a better life. And to some extent, they're right. But modern culture quietly pushes this mindset much further. Because today, identity is increasingly connected to consumption. People no longer just buy products. They buy status. They buy belonging. They buy the feeling of being successful. And social media amplified this pressure to extreme levels. Every day, people scroll through endless images of luxury apartments, perfect vacations, designer clothes, expensive dinners, and carefully edited lifestyles. Even if they logically understand it's curated, emotionally, comparison still happens. And comparison is expensive. Because once your brain normalizes luxury, ordinary life begins feeling inadequate. That's why many people making good salaries still feel emotionally poor. Not because they lack income, but because modern culture constantly moves the definition of enough. Part 4, the business of keeping people consuming. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never think about. Modern economies depend heavily on consumer spending. If people suddenly stopped buying unnecessary things, entire industries would collapse. Advertising, fashion, luxury goods, fast delivery services, subscription platforms, social media ecosystems, even parts of the housing market. Consumption isn't just encouraged anymore. It's structurally necessary. Which means modern systems are designed to keep people wanting more. More upgrades. More convenience. More entertainment. More stimulation. And this creates a dangerous psychological cycle. People work stressful jobs to afford lifestyles that help them emotionally recover from stressful jobs. Then they spend money to feel temporary relief, which creates more financial pressure, which requires more work. And the cycle repeats. Quietly. Year after year. This is why so many Americans feel exhausted even when they appear financially stable. Because financial pressure isn't only mathematical. It's psychological. Part 5, the hidden cost of modern life. One of the biggest financial changes in modern America isn't visible on a bank statement. It's emotional fatigue. People today make hundreds of financial decisions every week. Subscriptions. Insurance plans. Interest rates. Buy now pay later offers. Credit scores. Retirement accounts. Investment apps. Constant optimization. Constant comparison. Constant pressure to keep up. And over time, this creates mental exhaustion. People become financially reactive instead of intentional. They stop asking, do I actually need this? And start asking, can I afford the monthly payment? That single psychological shift changed modern spending behavior completely. Because once people think in monthly payments instead of total cost, almost everything begins feeling affordable. And when everything feels affordable, people slowly lose track of how much financial obligation they've accumulated. Until eventually, they're earning good money, yet still feel trapped. Part 6, what financially stable people do differently. Financially stable people often look surprisingly ordinary. That's something social media rarely shows. Real wealth is usually quiet. Less performative. Less desperate to impress strangers. Financially stable people tend to value flexibility more than appearance. They avoid unnecessary debt. They protect peace of mind. They understand that freedom often requires saying no. No to social pressure. No to constant upgrades. No to lifestyles designed mainly for external validation. And perhaps most importantly, they separate self-worth from consumption. Because once someone stops using money to prove value, their financial decisions become calmer, cleaner, more intentional. This doesn't mean living a miserable life. It doesn't mean rejecting success. It simply means understanding a difficult truth: many modern purchases are emotional decisions disguised as rational ones. And once people become aware of that, their relationship with money begins changing. Slowly, but permanently. After all, maybe the biggest financial illusion in modern America is believing that earning more money automatically creates security. Because for many people, higher income only creates bigger expectations, bigger lifestyles, bigger obligations, and bigger pressure. Meanwhile, the feeling they were originally chasing, peace, still feels distant. But maybe financial freedom was never really about looking wealthy. Maybe it was about reclaiming control. Control over time, attention, stress, and emotional dependence on consumption. Because the moment people stop trying to impress strangers, they often begin rebuilding something much more valuable. Stability, clarity, breathing room, and eventually, a life that no longer feels controlled by money every single day. Not instantly, not dramatically, but quietly. One intentional decision at a time.